Hey, today I want to discuss things I wish I had known my first 90 days sober. So this isn't necessarily things you'll need to know or I think you should know, but they're definitely things that I wish I had known, and maybe some of them will apply to you too. So if that interests you, stick around. Welcome back. My name is Jennifer. I'm a mother of 4 in recovery from alcohol addiction, sharing things I've learned along the way, and maybe something that's been helpful for me will be helpful for you too. So first of all, I experienced my first 90 days of sobriety more than once. It's actually kind of a common duration of sobriety before relapse, and I can get into why in a moment, but each time I came to that 90 days of sobriety window, there were some similarities and some differences. And as with a lot of life, there's so much advice out there about recovery, but a lot of it we really just learned through our own trial and error. It took our own life experiences to get us to this point, and it will only really be our own life experiences that can get us back on track. So the period leading up to finally getting sober is often a very chaotic, desperate time, a sense of crisis, a sense of everything falling apart. The temptation at first can be to think that everything is going to be better now because we eliminated that catalyst for disaster. And the pressure may be to be an entirely new person all at once. So one thing that I didn't expect was for my loved ones to be so relieved and expect that I was just back to myself as soon as I started to behave more like myself. The crisis, the chaos had subsided, the substance had been taken away, but I was still a very fragile, weakened version of myself, and taking on my whole full load of personal, social, logistical, home, work, whatever responsibilities was way too much and extremely overwhelming. So while we can't control the ways that other people will think, we can temper our own expectations. And so expecting that we'll just be fixed and feel so much better and back on track right away, probably not going to be the way it goes. So the insight here was that stability came before transformation. And I think that part is a little bit more universally true. If we're able to focus more on just regaining stability and allowing our nervous system to calm down and begin to re-regulate, we can set up simple routines, we can set up small achievable goals, but the big transformations, the big reinvention is going to happen gradually over a long period of time. The second, and similarly, I was extremely emotional and sensitive. It's not that I was angry or aggressive or anything, but my mood swings were dramatic and I was crying a lot. I was overthinking a lot, obsessing over things people said, really easily triggered. My senses became very intense. All smells became very strong to me. The world felt loud, fast, smelly, and like intense and mean, And the world hadn't changed, but I hadn't realized or known how intense my own emotional fluctuations would be until I was in it. So a bit of reassurance there. That did subside over time. The third thing was that needing support isn't weakness. Once I was out of the phase of needing medical intervention and clear help from professionals, I began to feel like it was time for me to just take it all on myself. I think maybe this is kind of commonly a female mother thing, but maybe we all experience it. I felt I had already been an inconvenience to everyone. I had been an inconvenience to the medical system. I had used up the resources, and it was time for me to just buckle up and get her done. It stemmed a bit from that first one of feeling like I needed to just be back to normal with all of my responsibilities. But understanding how to find support and how to ask for support and how to know that I needed it, it took me time. It took me time to realize that that wasn't a weakness. That was part of the strength, was building the support that I needed to continue on past that urgent initial stage. So thankfully, I already had a great meeting that I was attending, but that was crucial. And then setting up a longer term relationship with counseling. And then for me, finding the structure that actually worked and supported me sustainably in a day took some trial and error, and finding the friends that I could actually talk to about what I was going through, that I could talk to when I couldn't understand even what I was feeling, and that could understand it enough to just support me. Yeah, I especially found one close friend who had lots of experience with recovery as well, and was able to listen non-judgmentally and not just offer fixes to things, but just relate and listen and be there. But a big takeaway from this part was that community was really necessary to help me regulate and to help me heal. We are wired for community. We are built for connection. Often we come out of a period of severe addiction having grown very accustomed to isolation or pushing people away or being pushed away. And so finding that support and connection is crucial. And it was crucial for me. And it didn't work the first couple times, to be honest. The fourth kind of surprise, it was how much I would feel a sense of who am I? And actually my counselor in treatment asked me that very question and had me, write about it. Aside from being a mother and a person with a substance use issue, who am I? What am I? And it kind of scared me that I actually couldn't answer. How could I be in my 40s and not know who I am? I've definitely gone through phases of my life where I knew who I was, or I thought I knew. But it took me a while to settle into that reality, accept it, and then embrace it as an opportunity to rebuild and really sit down and decide, what are my values? Who do I strive to be? Reinvent, in a way. Why are they my values? The fifth thing that I'll talk about, I touched on it at the beginning, is that 90 days can be a bit of a trap time period because of all the re-regulating going on in our brains and in our bodies. It's possible to have a period called a pink cloud where our bodies are actually producing extra of the feel-good chemicals of dopamine to compensate for the lack of the substance. And so we're still operating at an artificial level of some of those feel-good chemicals. And as we're going through all these emotional ups and downs and identity crises, we're actually also receiving extra. It's just kind of a general rule that applies broadly, but that period of having those extra feel-good chemicals is around 3 months. And for some people, that pink cloud period can suddenly end. The pink cloud can burst. The levels of neurochemicals just drops and changes completely, dramatically. Feeling good, like this is working out, I'm getting this, I actually feel kind of confident, can suddenly disappear. And it's perfectly normal. It's a very normal response in our bodies and in our brains to all the really dramatic changes that are happening. But that can be a very, very common time for relapse because the feeling can be so sudden, dramatic, debilitating, depressing, lots of D words. So knowing about it doesn't change it happening, and knowing about it doesn't predict how it will happen to each person. it doesn't even predict how it will happen to me from one period of sobriety to the next. But knowing that it exists helped to equip me to really just focus on that, taking it slow and easy and building simple structure and simple routine and going easy on myself and establishing those routines while I felt like I could, so that if that dramatic drop happened or when that dramatic change happened, I would have already established a bit of a pattern that I could fall back on. And that helped to safeguard me against relapse. Not the first few times, but eventually the understanding and the routine and the acceptance and the self-compassion helped me to ride through that and make it beyond the 90 days. So I wanted to share this just partly as an insight into my own experience, partly to be another relatable voice out there that maybe some of what you're hearing is what you've experienced or what you're afraid you'll experience or what you hope you'll experience. Progress is often very subtle and sometimes almost unnoticeable. And recovery is about our own lived experience. It's not about how it appears to others, what numbers or outward expressions are validated by other people. It's about our own journey, because we can't maintain any kind of facade in real recovery. It's hard enough just doing it without the facade. And then just one last thing, it's not going to be perfect. Mistakes when we're learning something new are a natural part of the learning process. So if we're making mistakes, we're learning. And some of those mistakes are really painful, but they're all part of learning and we can grow from them and we can get there. So yeah, we don't have to rush it to reinventing ourselves and becoming this new, perfect, awesome sobriety giant who's taking on the world. We can just take time, be gentle, become stable, play the long game, be in it for the long haul. And maybe I'm yammering on now. I don't know. But if you have any questions at all about, you want to get sober, or you have tried and struggled with it, or you have tried and it was a piece of cake, I'd really love to hear about that. And I think it would be helpful to others to hear various experiences in the comments. So if you feel open to sharing, please do. And if you want more content like this, please subscribe to follow along. And I'll talk to you soon.